John Keats was born on 31st October 1795 and died on 23rd February 1821. He was one of the main figures of the second generation of Romantic poets, and along with him the other famous poets were Lord Byron and P.B. Shelley. Although his poems were not generally well received by critics during his lifetime, his reputation grew after his death. So by the end of 19th century, he had become one of the most beloved of all the English poets. He had a significant influence on a diverse range of poets and writers. The poetry of Keats is characterized by sensual imagery, most notably in the series of odes. Today, his poems and letters are some of the most popular and most analyzed in English literature. His notable works are To Autumn, Ode to a Nightingale, On First Looking into Chapman's Homer, Ode on a Grecian Urn. There are many more because the list is never ending. He was a British Romantic poet, and his first epic poem, that is Endymion, was published in 1818. It is a narrative about relationship between a goddess and her human lover. The poem is based on the Greek myth of Endymion, the shepherd who falls in love with the moon goddess Selene, whom the poet renames Cynthia. And this extract, A Thing of Beauty, actually talks of how beautiful things give us pleasure and alleviate suffering and sorrows. So the epic poem Endymion begins famously with the line, A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Now let me begin with the explanation of the poem line by line. Line number 1 to 5 go like this. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases, it will never pass into nothingness, but will keep a bower quiet for us and a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. So in these lines, the poet says that a thing of beauty can give us everlasting joy. Its loveliness never fades from our imagination. Rather, it increases because our imagination keeps on adding new colors to it. It never passes into nothingness. It always remains fresh in our memory. It serves the purpose of a quiet bower for us. So bower is basically a shady place under the trees. So the thing of beauty serves the purpose of a quiet bower for us, and we can move into this bower whenever we like. In other words, in moments of sadness, we can recall the beauty of that object and be happy again. Its memory will lead us to a gentle sleep full of sweet dreams. It will keep us healthy and give us all peace that is required. Line number 6 to 13 go like this. Therefore, on every morrow are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth, spite of despondence, of the inhuman dearth of noble natures, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and o'er-darkened ways. Made for our searching, yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits. So here the poet says that it is beauty alone that keeps us going on this earth. Beauty is a kind of flowery band that binds us to this earth. Morrow is basically the next day after the present one, that is tomorrow. And wreathing means covering or surrounding. So it is beauty that keeps us moving from one day to the next day. There is so much to grieve in the world, but beauty makes it possible to live here. There is depression and dejection all around. There are very few people who have a really noble heart. Man's life is all gloomy. There are many mysterious happenings that men fails to understand in spite of all his attempts. But in spite of all these unhappy things, man continues to live on this earth. And the poet says that it is only because there are some beautiful things also in the world. It is the beauty of these objects that takes away the gloom from our sad hearts. Line number 13 to 19 go like this. Such the sun, the moon, trees old and young, sprouting a shady boon from simple sheep, and such are daffodils with the green world they live in, and clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make. Against the hot season the mid-forest break, rich with a sprinkling of fair musk rose blooms. So here the poet lists some of the beautiful things that add some charm to the otherwise sad life of this earth. He says that there are the beautiful sun and the moon. There are big and small trees that give pleasant shade to the gentle sheep. And then there are lovely daffodils with all the green world in which they live. There are clear streams that make cooling coverts along their course to protect themselves from the hot season. Then there are also low-lying plants in the middle of the forest with the lovely white roses growing among them here and there. And all these sights are so beautiful to look at. So the last 5 lines, that are line number 20 to 24, say, and such too is the grandeur of the dooms we have imagined for the mighty dead, all lovely tales that we have heard or read, an endless fountain of immortal drink pouring unto us from the heavens' brink. So continuing with his list of beautiful things, the poet says that we imagine magnificent rewards by God on the day of judgment for those mighty men of the world who are now lying dead in their graves. We think of those grand rewards and are filled with happiness. Then there are lovely tales of olden days that we have heard or read. The poet calls all these beauties as endless fountain of immortal drink that heaven itself is pouring down for us. In other words, God Himself has created these beautiful things for us so that we can derive joy from them during our life on this earth. They can give us as much joy as angels derive from the immortal drink of heaven.